Hello, everybody. My name is Melissa Fanning, and this is the oral presentation of my thesis for INTS 4350. This was let me restart that. Was this research was done kind of throughout my time in public education, just my personal knowledge base, as well as just being in public education and having the ability to see firsthand exactly how special education works, being on the front lines, as well as the back end of that, of special education, processing all the paperwork that goes along with it. So I just wanted to preface with that. So my research was the constitutionality and interpretation of the 14th Amendment with, it's called IDEA, which is the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. It was signed into law in November 1975. And basically what it was, when it was signed in, it was to help students that needed that extra push for being in like a general education setting. If they were dyslexic and they might not need the extra medical care, or if they just had a slower processing but did not need that medical care, they were able to sit in a general education arena with their peers and have someone that was trained in special education to help them fulfill their goals that they had set out in their IEPs, which is an individual education plan. We'll get to that in just a second. So I felt that this is a very complex problem because although it is a great thought, the implementation of IDEA kind of gets lost in translation. Yes, it is a federal law. Yes, in education, we are supposed to be adhering to it. There is no questions. However, when we look at the micro level versus the macro level, at the macro level, it's basically they're saying, we're supposed to be doing this at the micro level, all the way down in micro. And I went down into the classroom. It's very difficult to implement these laws. That being said, I chose, because this is such a complex problem and because it does get lost in translation, I decided that the organizational leadership within, from starting from the Department of Education down to the state agencies, for example, TEA, down to school districts, down to the campus level, that's when I spoke of the micro analysis, and then I went ahead and chose the education portion discipline. So it's definitely going to take these two disciplines that I've chose to find the differences, what is causing the problem in each one, and then trying to put them together and to figure out what are the commonalities, what are the disputes within that, and really just kind of try to find a solution for it, although it will be very difficult because there are so many students that need services And there are a plethora of services that are listed. So how this starts is that a student goes through an RTI process, and from the RTI process, it's certain levels. So if the student is identified as struggling and not meeting their goals with the RTI process, then they go to some testing and they get diagnosed, whether that's a processing delay or dyslexia, or if they fall under like OHI, which is other health impairments, which is ADHD. They qualify to be in special education and receive services, and that is called an IEP. And what that is an individual and education plan. What that does is it takes all the input from all the teachers that's in the student's life, and the parent, the student, therapist, administrators, and they come together and they collectively design a custom-made plan for this student to be successful. Each It's called an ARD, which is an annual review or dismissal. And each meeting, they have an annual meeting for the student. They go over these IEPs and they will agree on, if this will work or if this will work, and they set these goals and they want these students to master these goals. So that's kind of the very basic explanation of how we even get to someone that qualifies for special education services in public education. Again, very basic. The process alone can take up to 6 months. Depending on the testing, the amount of testing. So let's fast forward. We have this idea, which was implemented by the federal government and then passed down from the Department of Education. And then, so this law is in the Bill of Rights, which is in the 14th Amendment. And so we as educators have to recognize this, and we have to abide by this. In the early 2000s, No Child Left Behind, that President Bush signed in, kind of was an extension of IDEA. And basically it's the least restrictive environment, meaning let's go ahead and put these students that are what we call bubble students, let's put them in a general education setting. That could be from high functioning autistic student that is capable of doing the work. They just need a little help. So let's go ahead and put them in a general education setting, say a history class, and let them perform. We're just going to support them with a couple of a few modifications or accommodations to the curriculum for them. Again, it goes back to the IEP. So as this is being passed down, IDEA goes from the DOE to TEA, which is Texas Education Agency. And then from TEA, we'll just use my district, which is Belton Independent School District. It goes from the district level all the way down to campus levels. So at the campus level is where the students are. That's where we have the ARDs. That's where the IEPs are developed. And so from there, it goes to the classroom. So it depends on really at the campus level who is accountable, who is holding these general educators accountable, who is in charge of these IEPs, and how is IDEA being implemented, and making sure that these students are getting their services, making sure that these general education educators are know what to do with these individual education plans. It's a lot of information, especially new to education. And, I don't think that, in my personal opinion, I don't think that that there is enough training for teachers to be able to implement this. So the idea of this whole thesis was bringing IDEA using the organizational leadership, meaning at the micro level. So we'll say the school principal, and education, we'll say the general education educators. And how can we get these two from this side and this side? How can we get them together to find a solution for this complex problem? I've identified the issues, being held accountable, the communication aspect of it, where the breakdown is, who supports who. Do we go to the state agency and say we could really use some resources in our district? Or do the districts need to hire or make sure that all of our special education educators or paraprofessionals are trained? So who is accountable for the lack of implementation of this? So, do we communicate to our campus leader? Our campus leader communicates to the district communicates to TEA. So in that, growing up, I'm sure that you have played telephone. So everything kind of gets lost in translation. So, in the end, I feel that it really falls on the shoulders of the school administrators, the district administrators. The federal government has given us an outline, has given us the law, the black and white law of what we are supposed to do. And if we are not implementing these things, we are doing a disservice to the students. We are not following protocol. We are not following the law. And it's, but at the same time, we have to recognize these things, and we have to find a solution as how can we be better? How can we get better? This is not just a Belton Independent School District issue. This is a from the West Coast to the East Coast issue. This is a big problem, and a lot of our students are just kind of falling through the cracks. And I wish I could wave a magic wand and let it be better, but it's going to take a lot more research, a lot more time, and a lot more effort down the road. Do I think this problem will continue? Yes. Do I think that there can be a solution? Yes. Do I think it can start at the campus level and then work out? Yes. But it has to be recognized. It has to be talked about. And I know that a lot of districts, at least in Texas, are very, instead of being proactive, they are very reactionary. So it's not until a parent says something that, my child is not receiving their modifications on their IEP, and you better believe that then we are going to be reactionary, instead of being proactive, and every general education teacher know what idea is, where it comes from, why we have it, and why it is implemented or it needs to be implemented. So that's kind of that was my thesis. That's what I've been working on. Thank you for listening, and I hope that this kind of sparks some fire in some people, and if they go into education, to do their own research and make their campus a little better. So thank you so much, and have a great evening.